It seems about the right time to try and tackle politicians' use of music. This is fairly complicated, or maybe it seems complicated. Jay and I are going to try and decomplicate it for you. At least that's the hope. It's Thursday, it's October 1st, and this is the current music news. I'm Jade.
And I'm Jay. Well, you've probably seen some of the recent headlines. Headlines like, Neil Young sues Donald Trump for copyright infringement. The Rolling Stones tell Trump campaign to stop using their songs at rallies. Leonard Cohen's estate, quote, exploring our legal options after Trump plays Hallelujah at RNC. REM still trying to stop, quote, fraud and con man Trump from using band's music at rallies. This has been an especially intense election cycle, but this is far from the first time that musicians have clashed with political candidates who use their music even though they don't have the artist's political support.
Yeah, this has been happening for years. Soul legend Sam Moore asked Barack Obama to stop using Sam and Dave's Hold On, I'm Coming. That was in 2008. The late John McCain loved ABBA. But ABBA did not love him using their music at campaign rallies. They sent him a cease and desist letter. And all the way back to the 80s, when George H.W. Bush adopted Don't Worry, Be Happy as his campaign theme, Bobby McFerrin asked the vice president to cut it out. And he even turned down a dinner invitation when Bush tried to change his mind.
So why is this still a thing? Why can't musicians get political candidates to stop using their music at campaign events? Well, it's complicated. But essentially, the reality is that in almost all cases, artists actually don't have the legal right to tell candidates to stop playing music at campaign events. The reason for that is that most major artists sign licensing deals with performance rights organizations like ASCAP and BMI.
So, any public event, if they want to play music, they have to sign a license agreement and pay for that. But once they do, they can play pretty much whatever they want. And if that sort of agreement wasn't in place, Neil Young and ABBA would have to go to pretty much every restaurant, every bowling alley, every single wedding that wanted to happen and make individual agreements. And obviously, that's just way too complicated. No one's going to do that, which is why they signed their rights to cover these wide range of venues and events. And that includes rallies, whether you're talking about political events or monster trucks.
So just telling a candidate to cut it out basically is not going to work. The next thing that some artists have tried is revising their licensing agreements to make certain songs unavailable specifically for political events. And that's exactly what Neil Young has done with his song Rockin' in the Free World, which has been a favorite of the president's, much to Neil Young's chagrin. But there's some legal ambiguity there too, because music rights licensing is actually regulated by federal law due to antitrust concerns. So even if Neil Young wants to make exceptions to his own licensing agreements, that may not actually be up to him.
And that is exactly what Neil Young's lawsuit is all about. He says that his license allows him to exclude political events, and his team is arguing that that kind of distinction is allowed under the agreement that rights organizations have ultimately on behalf of the artist with the U.S. government. The rights organizations are in fact backing the artists up, saying that musicians should have the right to choose who plays their music at these political events and whether they want that to happen or not.
So, if this lawsuit moves forward and Neil Young wins, that will establish a precedent that will allow artists to pull their music from being used at campaign events. But this is certainly not going to be resolved before Election Day, November 3rd. In the meantime, what can artists do? Well, pretty much they can say as loudly and publicly as they can that they do not want certain candidates to use their music. And sometimes that works. It worked for Sam Moore. It worked for Bobby McFerrin. But as the Rolling Stones are learning, you can't always get what you want.
So that's the current music news. Whatever your election day soundtrack is going to be, hopefully No artist gets mad at you either way, but we encourage you to do your civic duty and cast a ballot. You can find voter registration at thecurrent.org.